Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It is approximately 1:29 in the morning on Saturday, the day before Christmas Eve, and we just completed our most recent podcast on the Steelers and Patriots game. Now we can finally move past that game. We can talk about Christmas Day football, the Steelers' second straight year on Christmas Day. Last year, the Steelers memorably clinched the AFC North with Antonio Brown's immaculate extension. This year, the Steelers have a chance to do something far less dramatic, but still potentially clinch a first-round bye with, I believe, a Jaguars loss and a win, right?
Yep, Jaguars have to lose.
The Steelers are one of four teams, two games playing on Monday night. The Steelers playing in Houston for the first time since 2011. A lot of football. Not many games where there aren't teams still in it, but we'll learn a lot about the playoff picture this week, Austin. A lot of teams on the edge, potentially getting knocked off this week. We have two games coming up technically today. So before we get to that, let's just talk a little bit about just a little bit of Steelers news. The new A Football Life, Swan and Stallworth just recently aired on NFL Network, and I watched it, and it's amazing. So I recommend it to all Steelers fans that are either interested in anything from the 70s with the Steelers or are just interested in Steelers football in general. You should check that out. Now, as far as the actual game goes, on Friday, the Steelers released their injury report. A couple DNPs did not practice. We have Antonio Brown, as we know, who's not playing the rest of the regular season, and James Harrison with another illness. Do you think he's really ill, or is this just something the Steelers are doing to have him not play or something?
I don't think he's actually sick. I don't know if it has any impact on the league or anything. I think it's so people stop telling them that James Harrison needs to play. I don't know. I don't really know because it's become like a tradition now that he's just got something why he's not participating or something. He's working out in his videos. He looks fine. He's seems fine. He doesn't seem like the person to not practice because of an illness, even if it's the flu. I think he would probably practice because he's James Harrison. I don't know. It seems like a con of some sort.
Yeah, very bizarre. Outside of that, cornerback Cody Sensabaugh was returning to limited action, and offensive guard Ramon Foster actually is limited with the concussions. He's right about back. He just needs to clear one more step to be cleared. But Austin and we actually had discussed this earlier. I think it actually might make more sense for him to miss this game. Now listen to us why. I had thought, Austin, it might make sense so that way the oldest offensive lineman on the team could get a rest in for a week before going on the playoff stretch run here. Am I wrong in thinking that way?
I don't think so. I feel like the team could do fine without Ramon Foster. I have faith in B.J. Finney and Chris Hubbard if it came down to it. I don't feel like Ramon Foster has to play here. And in all honesty, I know it's an NFL game. I know it could go anyway, but I don't really think Ramon Foster is going to be the difference maker here. So I think it's okay to give him the week off and let him get ready for next week against the Browns and get ready for the playoffs. The playoffs. And
let me just make clear that that's because of B.J. Finney and Chris Hubbard, not because we don't think having him play would make a difference. It's because the backups on the Steelers just happen to be really good too.
Yeah.
Beyond that, yeah. Beyond that, Tyler Matakevich, Vance McDonald, both were full participants with the shoulder injuries, so that's encouraging. And Joe Hayden practiced in full with his leg injury. So it looks like the Steelers are going to be getting three guys back, which at the very least is going to help special teams, and it should help each unit actually then. If McDonald is playing, Hayden is playing, and Matakevich is playing, that means all three units are getting a boost. So that's big time for the Steelers going up. As far as... Yeah, absolutely. Boy, the Texans injury report, man, this is like a laundry list here. Or like a grocery list. I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll just we'll we'll cover the quarterbacks first. So Tom Savage is expected to miss the rest of the year with a concussion that he suffered a couple weeks ago. TJ Yates was a full participant with a knee injury, but he's their starting quarterback. So there's that. Braxton Miller, receiver, full participant with a concussion. Wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins was limited with a toe injury, and Jadeveon Clowney was also limited with the knee and neck injury. So I guess, what do you make of all these injuries? They also have a starting offensive lineman with who was limited with a groin injury too.
They are just an injury-riddled team. They have not been left alone all year. J.J. Watt obviously went down earlier. Whitney Merciless went down. And obviously having your two best players on your team that are left right now are limited. That's not good. And then another starter in Xavier Suafilo. I think that's how you say his name. I just gave him my best shot. It's not good. They've just not had a really good year at all. Also lost Deshaun Watson, breakout star early in the year, to an ACL tear that was in practice. That makes it even worse, in my opinion. It's just, I feel so bad for them almost. They were not given any luck this year. Well, what do you make out of all these injuries?
2018 can't come soon enough. That's really all I have to say on the matter.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Texans and Steelers have not played often. As a matter of fact, this is only the 6th all-time matchup between these two teams. These two teams last played in 2014. It was a Week 7 victory for the Steelers by a final score of 30-23. The Steelers currently hold a 1-game winning streak there. These two teams have never played in the playoffs. So, I guess here's a fun fact, Austin, if you will. Not so fun for Steelers fans, but the inaugural meeting between these two teams in the Texans' first season in 2002 was actually a deceiving win for the Texans. They won 24-6, but the Houston Texans set an NFL record in that game for the fewest amount of total yards accrued on offense by a winning team, with just 47 yards. The Texans had all 3 of their touchdowns on defense, with 2 pick sixes and 1 fumble return for a touchdown. Texans quarterback David Carr went just 3 of 10, and the Texans averaged 1.4 yards per carry on the ground as a team. So there's something, that just a little tidbit of history there. So now let's move into the offense. I guess the Texans have the worst ranked defense in the league. So I guess even with Antonio Brown out, the Steelers have to be really encouraged by what they see here.
Yeah, the offense is going to have an easy one. It's the worst defense in the league, as you said. Therefore, Ben is going to throw 4 picks, and the entire offense will have 0 points. Well, joking aside, without Brown, on paper, this is a cakewalk. No game is given in the NFL, though, so I guess I shouldn't say that. But I will anyway, because I believe the offense has just been getting better and better as of late. I think they could easily have another 30-point game here, especially if Juju is as good as he has looked all year. Basically, I have no fear with Juju being the number 1 receiver. I know that might be a lot to believe already. Juju hasn't had a lot of playing time. He hasn't been in the league for long enough. He's had a good amount of playing time. While I was very upset if Brown got hurt, I'm excited to see the offense without him, just to see what other guys can do when given the chance. It's almost like a preseason game, but against actual good rostered teams. That being said, Brown being out last week made it look like receivers as a whole did better. Don't get me wrong saying that Antonio Brown shouldn't be getting the ball or that's obviously very stupid. Please don't take it that way. But as soon as I saw AB go down, my immediate thought was that the receiving game had nothing other than Juju now, because receivers other than AB and Juju have been disappointing this year. But I felt like they actually performed well there, which is interesting. That being said, I have hope for the other guys like Bryant, Rogers, and DHB to step up here. I'm excited to see if they are capable. Really, they will have to, since the only thing the Texans are good at is defending the run, ranking 10th in the league for rush defense. So Le'Veon might struggle, but I think it's deceiving. I wouldn't say that the Texans have faced many teams with good running backs. Facing teams like the Ravens, the Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks, Browns, and the Bengals before Joe Mixon got to be a starter. and the Patriots, which you could argue have good running backs, but I don't really think so. Realistically, they faced Leonard Fournette once since Chris Ivory played last week, Kareem Hunt, Todd Gurley, Carlos Hyde, and DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry twice. And to go into some detail, they allowed Hyde 5.6 yards a carry and a touchdown, Derrick Henry a whopping 9.9 yards a carry and a touchdown, and over 100 yards, and DeMarco Murray is 6.6 yards per carry in the second matchup, and Todd Gurley 6.2 yards per carry in the Rams matchup. So basically, they can't handle good running backs, and I think Bell qualifies. Other than that, the Texans have been riddled with injuries and have lost most of their pass rush early, losing J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless earlier in the season. The only threat to the offensive line is Jadeveon Clowney, but that's only one guy, and I think they can handle it personally, especially with him limited with not just one, but 2 injuries. He hurt his neck, and I believe it is his knee. Yeah, his neck and knee. So he's going to be, if he's banged up in those 2 places, he's not going to be very good as a pass. I mean, I take that back. He can still be good, but it's going to affect him if he's hurt both places. But that about wraps it up for me from what I see for the offense in this game. What do you think the offense is capable of in this game?
Well, what a difference one season makes. 11 months ago, in the playoffs, the Texans' defense held their own against Tom Brady and the Super Bowl winning Patriots. They picked off Tom Brady twice and kept him under a 50% completion rate and sacked him twice. Despite giving up 34 points in that game, I think everyone kind of figured that if a better quarterback than Brock Osweiler had played for the Texans, they'd have a good chance of winning that game. He threw 3 picks and less than 200 yards in that game. But fast forward to now, the Texans went from the number 1 ranked defense in the league to right now where they're last in the league in points per game. And they're in the bottom third of the league in yards allowed. And yes, I think it can't be stated enough how big it was losing guys like J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless, a former All-Pro in his own right, for the season. But that doesn't explain a drop of, 24 different spots in the total yardage against category. The Texans have been playing horrible this season on defense. The last time the Texans gave up less than 20 points in a game came in Week 6 against the Browns, which doesn't even count in my mind. The only other time that happened this year was in a Week 2 win against the Bengals, where the Bengals fired their offensive coordinator immediately following the game. And it was a Thursday night game, by the way. So if you're the Steelers offense, this is a great opportunity to learn about what you have on the offense, specifically at wideout without Antonio Brown in there. If there's one thing the Texans do well on defense, Austin mentioned it, it's slowing down the rushing attack, where they rank a respectable 10th in the league, which again could be an inflated stat because teams just throw the ball all over them. The 27th ranked pass defense means the Steelers have a nice mismatch there, even with Antonio Brown out. So the game plan should be pretty simple. Attack the Texans' suspect pass defense. They've given up 300 yards to, at the time, an unproven Jimmy Garoppolo, Blake Bortles, and Jacoby Brissett. So what does that mean Ben Roethlisberger can do here? Even without Brown, the Texans have only one threat. You covered it, Austin, Jadeveon Clowney, and he's injured. So he's not going to be at 100%. Just double team him. You might as well. Look for Roethlisberger to try to spread the ball around early and often, getting his receivers and tight ends into the game. And one dynamic that I'm going to touch a little bit on later could be the return of Vance McDonald. We saw him maybe play his best football of the season as far as a receiver goes against the Ravens 2 weeks ago. Once he left, it didn't look good, but when he was in the lineup, it felt like he was really adding something to the offense. Almost like the way Ladarius Green did against the Colts last year, where he flashed some, and then the following week he went off for his only big game of the year against the Giants. The important thing for this offense to do, in my mind, is to not force anything. They're clearly the better unit in this matchup, and they should be able to impose their will. As far as the ground game goes, I think that as the game goes on, the Steelers are going to just start running and running more and more. And they should. Bell put up a 100-yard performance last week against the Patriots and has been even more dangerous in the passing game over the last few weeks. Even with the solid rush defense, I feel like the Texans are just not going to be able to slow down the league's top runner. And I think the Steelers are going to have a pretty easy day, and they're going to be able to do whatever they want on offense. So it's looking pretty good for the offense. On the other side, The Texans are about a middle-of-the-pack unit, Austin, but I think you and I can agree here that a lot of this has to do with Deshaun Watson going down, and those stats might be inflated. I'm willing to bet that with Tom Savage and TJ Yates, those numbers are not good at all.
Not at all. We made it sound easy for the offense, I would say, because the defense. I'm sorry. We made it sound easy for the offense. Well, it's even easier for the defense in this game, don't you think? Because the defense should just easily kill it. They are facing TJ Yates, and the running back crew has been bad all year. Not only that, Joe Hayden returns this game. There should be one game plan and one game plan only. Cover DeAndre Hopkins. He's literally the only thing the Texans have on offense on the moment. And we've seen he's been able to put up numbers with bad quarterbacks before. It's crazy and hurts so bad that in 2013, when the Steelers picked Jarvis Jones, Hopkins went 10 picks later when they needed a receiver after Wallace's departure as well. They needed a linebacker more, so don't take that wrong. But it's just crazy to think, can we just take a step back here for a second? Imagine an offense where you have to cover Antonio Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. Sorry for being off topic, but back to the defense here. They also have a favorable matchup pass rush-wise, as the Texans have so many injuries and have shifted their line so much that maybe only one or two starters from week one on the offensive line will be playing this game. There will be a bunch of backups for the most part. And just to remind you, that week one squad, I didn't speak tonight, gave up 10 sacks to the Jaguars. And the Steelers are third in sacks, so they have a good chance of having a good time here. And honestly, that's really all I have to say. The matchups are just so favorable here. So what do you have to say for the defense here?
Well, it goes without saying, but this is quite a different offense without Deshaun Watson, a quarterback. All you need to do is quite simply look at their production from the first game with Savage, who had to come in and replace Watson, and just look at those games since then. The Texans have now played 8 games without Watson since the ACL injury and have cracked the 30-point barrier just once. As a matter of fact, that's the only game they've cracked the 20-point barrier as well. The Texans have scored in chronological order 14, 7, 31, 16, 13, 16, and 7 points against a couple of very good defenses like the Rams, Ravens, and Jaguars, but they've also played the likes of the 49ers, the Titans, who are currently reeling, and the Colts. The Texans are simply offensive challenged without Deshaun Watson at quarterback. All that being said, it's important for the Steelers to recognize this about the Texans. Their season is over, and they have little to play for, but here's one thing they do have to play for. DeAndre Hopkins is currently the second leading receiver in the NFL behind Antonio Brown for the league lead in receiving yards. So the way that I see it is that the Texans are best served to get the ball into his hands as much as they possibly can, and they won't be afraid to take deep shots because they have nothing to lose. So the Steelers' defensive backfield, which has given up big plays a lot this year, and especially in the second half of the season, is going to get tested early and often. Another thing that is in the Steelers' favor, though, is that outside of one game this year, the Texans have had at least one turnover in every game. And to add into that, the Texans have only rushed for 100-plus yards in one game since Watson got injured. So that means games where they knew they were having suspect quarterback play, they could not get the offensive line and running game going. So I think there's a legitimate claim to be made that this could be the Steelers' defensive front's best game of the year. Now, of course, that doesn't mean they will play well. We saw the Steelers struggle to generate any pass rush against the Lions with Brian Mahalik starting at left tackle. But, again, everything points to the Steelers' front overwhelming the Texans. But the key, as I just said, is going to be how the Steelers defend DeAndre Hopkins, how they defend the deep ball. And if they just don't allow themselves to be beat over the top, then the Texans have no chance. Plain and simple. I don't see how the Texans can score more than 17 points in this game. As far as special teams go, Austin, there usually isn't too much to say, but I just wanted to acknowledge Shane Leckler's career. One of the best punters in NFL history. He's still getting it done at 41 years old. And beyond that, Will Fuller has been dangerous on punt returns this year. Their kicker, Kiami Farbane, has only made 78.3% of his kicks this year, and he's missed 3 PATs this year, so their kicking game has been inconsistent at best.
That's something to look forward to. All I'm really looking at in this game is that teams just keep bullying our return game now by kicking it short of the end zone. So he was hoping for Juju to make a good return or two so they kick it into the end zone and let us have touchbacks. So at this point, the Steelers can't even get past the 20 when they have to return it. So it's really bad, and the teams are capitalizing on that. And that's losing 5 yards every time or 6 yards. What could be a touchback is just not good. It sucks. So I'm hoping for some good things from the kick return team, even though there's nothing good all year. That's about it for me.
All right. When the Steelers are on offense, Austin, what is the key for their success?
It's to spread the ball. The Texans will basically have no chance to stop an offense if there's more than one person stepping up. It's spreading the ball, have someone else step up. I mean, it's now there is no Antonio Brown, so it's got to be Juju Smith-Schuster in the number one role, and someone else is going to have to help him. So there's that. What is the key for you on offense?
Isn't this the perfect kind of game, though, to have Antonio Brown not play? If it's not this week, then it's next week, and these are the two teams you'd want to play if you want to learn more about the offense, right?
Yep, I think this is a really good week to not have him.
As far as the key is, for me, it's just keep Jadeveon Clowney off Roethlisberger. It's pretty clear. He's the Texans' only competent player. He was picked number one overall for a good reason. He has the talent and the ability to wreck a game plan on his own. He must be contained for the Steelers to produce on offense and for them to win this game. It's still very important that the Steelers win this game in order to secure a first-round bye or potentially the number one seed. As long as Clowney isn't all over Roethlisberger, the Steelers should basically be able to do whatever they like on offense. On the flip side, what's the Steelers' key on defense?
It's to get the sacks they're supposed to get and keep that pressure on. Yates is not a very good quarterback, to put it simply. Just keep him under pressure, and there's no chance he produces big numbers. So what is your defensive key to the game?
Containing DeAndre Hopkins. You already mentioned it. He's just like Jadeveon Clowney, he's the Texans' only good offensive weapon. He's really good. He can catch the deep ball. He can catch the short ball and take it, 70 yards. So tackling him is important, and making sure you're shadowing the safety, whoever it is, over to his side is important. So make sure that he is not getting one-on-one coverage. Make sure he is not beating you because he's their only hope, and you better believe they're going to go his way. So given that, Austin, who is the Steelers' X factor on offense?
On offense, for me, it's Marcus Gilbert. I didn't really talk about him much in my preview, but his first game back in 4 weeks, so it'll be interesting to see if he will be ready against Texans pass rush. I don't like when a player comes back after a long time of not playing, so I made him my X factor. Who is your X factor on offense?
It's Vance McDonald. A lot's been made about Martavis Bryant and Juju Smith-Schuster, but we might actually get a chance to see Vance McDonald play a full game potentially. In limited action against the Ravens 2 weeks ago, he was pretty effective, and I think McDonald is going to get some favorable matchups over the middle. Getting him involved could be huge going forward for the Steelers in their playoff push, especially because the Texans have nobody to match up with him. It could be a huge confidence booster for Roethlisberger and McDonald. On the other side, who's the Steelers' X factor in your mind?
For defense, it's Joe Hayden or Artie Burns or whoever's going to be on DeAndre Hopkins at any given time. If they can hold Hopkins in check, the Texans may not be able to score points in this game. The rushing game, it doesn't exist, and if DeAndre Hopkins shut down, they don't have anything going. So last week, the only points they scored came from DeAndre Hopkins. In fact, they only put up 7 points. So you're just hoping to the Steelers being able to shut him down. Who is your defensive X factor?
It's Bud Dupree, a guy who's been kind of quiet all season, has suddenly gotten hot, where he has a sack in 2 of his last 3 games, and perhaps he has turned it around. I think he happens to be closer to the player he was at the end of last season than the player he was at the start of this season. The chance for him to continue playing well bodes well for the Steelers going into the playoffs. So I think his play will be important going forward. So Austin, I think we're all set with Steelers Texans on Christmas Day, right?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Alrighty. Time to look around the league. We have 2 games going on today, Saturday, December 23rd. So we'll start with the first one. We have the Indianapolis Colts and Chuck Pagano potentially coaching for his job, and the Baltimore Ravens currently on the edge of the playoffs right here. Baltimore is a 13-point favorite at 4:30 kickoff time tomorrow. I took the Ravens to cover here, Austin, and just for the simple reason being I think the Colts are a dumpster fire, and the Ravens need to win this game. It's very important that they win this game. So I took the Ravens to cover such a big spread.
I have the Colts here plus 13. I think that spread was a little too big for me. I feel like it needed to be about 10, and I would have said that the Ravens cover. But because of that, I'm picking the Colts plus 13.
I respect it. Vikings and Packers on Saturday night. Look, if Aaron Rodgers were playing, this would be a different story, but they just shut him down, so that means Brett Hundley's coming in cold against one of the best defenses in the league. I don't care what the spread is. Give me the Vikings to cover. It just happens to be 8.5.
Yep, Vikings cover here. It's simple as that. Brett Hundley's playing. He's cold. The rest of the Packers team is bad for the most part. Their defense is non-existent, so I'm picking the Vikings to cover.
Did you know not one of Brett Hundley's touchdowns this year have come at home?
That's gross. That sucks.
Yep, and of course, the Packers are home, so good luck there. Moving into the Sunday slate of games, the Browns staring 0-16 right in the face. They have 2 games left. They're facing the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Chicago is a 6.5-point favorite. Austin, the Bears have a chance to sweep the AFC North. Will they do it?
Oh, they are covering here. They are sweeping the AFC North. They are covering this game. The Bears are surprisingly hot right now. I think that they will easily win this game, even though they weren't favored a lot, and they are bad. But the Bears are almost kind of hysterical of the teams they've beaten this year. They beat the Panthers and the Steelers
and the Ravens,
and they beat the Lions. Well, I think they have 4 wins, and the only other impressive one is against the Lions. I know they beat the Bengals too. I think it's the Lions.
They beat the Ravens. I'll check. I know they beat the Ravens. I'm going to check right now for you.
Oh, okay. Then it's not the Lions because they only have 4 wins. So Panthers, Steelers, Ravens, and Bengals.
Well, yeah, because
hysterical.
I was going to say it has to be the AFC North because they could just go for the sweep now.
I find that hysterical that they have been 3 likely playoff teams so far this year. I think that's amazing, and they're bad. You would think if they beat 3 playoff teams, that's a pretty good amount for only 12 teams in the league making the playoffs each year. But I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, honestly. But yeah, I'm going to go back to the Browns versus Bears. Bears are covering. They're going to beat the Browns. Easy as that. What do you got?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I probably would have chosen something different here, Austin. But, the way I see it is, until the Browns actually do win, I just don't think they're going to. It sucks, but that's the way it is. Like I said, a few weeks ago, I might have been like, I'll pick them. But I have no confidence in them. So I do think that they are a good matchup, as strange as that sounds. So what I mean by that is that the Browns are good at stopping the run, and that's obviously the only thing that they do well. I'm talking about the Bears. Sorry, I'm completely mixing myself up. My computer's messing up here, but in any case, the Bears, the only thing they do well on offense is run the ball. And the Browns stop the run well. So that means they have a chance, but there's just no reason to think they're going to win a game until they do. That's kind of where I'm at now. So I think it'll be close, but in typical Browns fashion, they'll get their hearts ripped out at the end. 0-15 it is. So the next game, the Detroit Lions in Cincinnati. This could be the last game for Marvin Lewis at Paul Brown Stadium. Detroit's getting 3 points at home. Who do you got?
I have the Lions covering. I know that the Bengals are getting back Vontaze Burfict and Joe Mixon and Swift White this week, but even with them back, they've been blown out in back-to-back weeks, by the way, without them. I don't think that they can handle the Lions. I think the Lions are a way better team, so I have the Lions covering. What do you got?
The Lions tend to make games closer than they should be, like a certain team in Pittsburgh, it feels like. That plus what could be Marvin Lewis's final game in Cincinnati, I think the team will be playing hard for him this week. So I think the Bengals, in typical bungle fashion, will blow the game, and the Lions will come back and win, but it'll be close. So I'll take the Bengals +3. LA Rams at the Tennessee Titans. The Rams are getting 6.5 points on the road. The Titans are reeling, and they still have a shot at the AFC South, but boy, they desperately need a win. This could be a huge playoff collapse if they don't. I mean, we were talking about the Titans being a playoff team when the Steelers played them weeks ago. Like, it was almost a sure thing.
It's not looking like they're making it anymore. Even in my playoff predictor in the machine, I don't have them making it. It's just they absolutely have just not handled playing any good teams well, and then they've lost to bad teams now. They lost to the Cardinals just last week. Like, they're not doing good whatsoever. So I have the Rams covering. I'm surprised the Rams spread is a little bit larger. I'm a little confused as to why it's so small. I would have taken the Rams probably -10, but the last time I said something like that, the other team won. So I'm not going to take it back. But I feel weird about saying things like that, because now I feel like the Titans are going to come in and wreck. But what do you got?
Want to hear something that'll make you even more skeptical? Do you want to?
Yeah.
The Rams' only weakness this year has been in rush defense, which happens to be the only good thing that the Titans do on offense with Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. So it is conceivable that the Titans just run it down their throat. But Marcus Mariota has had an awful year, and Jared Goff has had a really good year. So for that reason alone, I'm going to be picking the Rams to win pretty convincingly. I want to see the Titans play well, but I think this is the Rams game easily. So I'll take the Rams to cover here. Don't worry, Austin, you're not alone.
All right, good.
Dolphins at Chiefs. This is actually kind of an interesting game, Austin. The Dolphins' defense has turned it around, and the Chiefs' offense has turned it around. So kind of a matchup of two good units, and then a matchup of two unheralded units with the Dolphins' offense and the Chiefs' defense. Chiefs are actually getting 10.5 points at home. The Dolphins just recently eliminated from playoff contention. Look, I got to be honest, I think the Chiefs win this game, but that's too much of a spread. This seems like a close game to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, I honestly almost had the Dolphins winning outright, and then I remembered that how badly they just lost to the Bills. So I'm going to take the Dolphins plus the 10.5, but I don't think the Dolphins have it in it to win this game, like I first did.
Bills at Patriots. This is the biggest game for Buffalo in 13 years, where if they win this game, they'll be significantly closer to making the playoffs. They're 11.5-point dogs on the road in New England. New England can clinch another 12-win season, another first-round bye. My dad's going to be at this game, Austin. He's visiting some family out there. You know what? The Steelers need the Bills to win this game because the Pats aren't losing to the Jets next week. So I will take the Bills this week. I'll let my fandom come through this time. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. I'll take the Bills to win outright in a shocking win, which they won't. But if they do, it'll be really nice. So please get that win, Buffalo. It'd be nice to actually see them in the playoffs this year too.
It would be. It would end a long playoff drought. I think the Bills can keep it closer than the 11.5 points. So I have the Bills plus 11.5. I don't quite have faith for them to win because the Patriots are 27-3 against them. So since Tom Brady's played them, since Tom Brady's been in the league. So I don't have much hope, but I think the Bills can keep it closer. So Bills plus 11.5.
Falcons at Saints. The Saints are 5.5-point favorites at home. They just played a couple weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. The Falcons got the better of them, but I'm taking the Saints to cover because Marshawn Lattimore has had a couple weeks back in action now, and they'll have Alvin Kamara back for this game. He only played very briefly in that game. Plus, they're home. I think that gives the Saints enough of an edge to get the win here, so I think they cover the 5.5-point spread here.
I have the Saints covering as well. I thought the Saints were the better team the first time. Now I totally think the Saints are the better team. And in fact, like I said, I don't have the Titans making the playoffs. I don't have the Falcons making the playoffs in my playoff predictors. So the Saints are going to win here.
That would continue the trend of the Super Bowl runner-up struggling the following season.
Mm-hmm.
LA Chargers at the New York Jets. The Jets played tough against the Saints last week, but clearly were not a match for Drew Brees. This has the makings of a trap game, but I just don't trust Bryce Petty, and I do trust Phillip Rivers. So I'll take the Chargers to cover the 6.5 point spread across the country against the poor Jets.
I don't have anything to add. It's Bryce Petty starting for the Jets. Chargers cover.
Fair enough. Broncos at Redskins, one of the few matchups. Oh, my apologies. One of the few matchups this week that involves two teams that have already been eliminated from the playoffs. I was thinking Redskins cover, but I'm kind of leaning towards Broncos winning outright. But I'll stick with my pick, the Redskins to cover a 3-point spread here. It is interesting to note that the Broncos have had a few extra days to prepare with the having played on Thursday Night Football last week. So, by the way, Thursday Night Football is done for the year. Just wanted to point that out.
Yep. For this game, I have the Broncos winning outright. I'm actually taking what you wanted to. I don't know. I feel like no one really cares in this game. They're obviously both eliminated. They're both pretty bad, to say the least. So I'm just going to pick the Broncos to win outright.
Buccaneers at Panthers. A few weeks ago, I would have said, Panthers win easy, but it's worth noting that the Buccaneers have played a lot better with Jameis Winston the last couple weeks, but they've also lost a few close games, and I like that trend. They're the Chargers of 2017 now. So I feel like the Buccaneers are going to lose a close game to the Panthers and just get their hearts ripped out again. So I'll take Buccaneers plus 10.5 in this one.
I got to pick the Carolina to cover here. I feel like the Buccaneers defense is just all backups. Every single position is just a backup on a backup. Even though Gerald McCoy is somehow playing this week with a torn bicep, they don't really have many of their starters, and the starters they do have are banged up. The only one guy they got that's starting that's still good is Quan Alexander. That's literally it. Everyone else has been hurt or injured, or they've just been playing bad. So I have Carolina covering because I think their offense is going to overwhelm the more Buccaneers.
Alrighty. Moving into the 4 o'clock games, the Jaguars are at the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo looking to stay undefeated, but he's facing a really tough defense in Jacksonville. But they are home, but Jacksonville's still getting 4.5. Look, I gotta be honest, Austin. I really was thinking about taking Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers here, but I just can't. The Jaguars have just played so well as of late. They look like they're a team on a mission. I got to be honest with you, Blake Bortles has really surprised me the last month of this year. He's played really well for someone we all thought was done. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
I feel like he deserves it. He has been really good as of late. And recently, Jadeveon Clowney called him trash. And I don't think we did NFL news yet.
Go ahead. Bring that up. Let's talk about it right now.
Yeah, just to bring it up right now. Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney called Blake Bortles trash after the game that they just lost 42-7, or was it 35-7? It was one of those.
45, I want to say.
Oh, okay, that one. So, basically, as they called him trash, a bunch of Jaguars fans decided to send him trash cans to NRG Stadium, and it's just hilarious because they obviously lost really bad, and he was just salty. And then, to redeem himself, Jadeveon Clowney took the trash cans and did, not to save his name because it never really damaged his name, in my opinion. It wasn't that awful to say that Blake Bortles was trash. I feel like everyone and their mother has called Blake Bortles trash at one point. So, but he took the trash cans, filled them up with toys, and donated them to a local children's hospital to save name, I suppose.
Well, that's so very nice.
Tell that story. Did you have anything to add or say about the story?
No, but that was nice of him to do.
It was nice, and that's what you're going to remember. You're not going to remember that he was sore and called Blake Bortles trash after a huge loss. You're going to remember that he gave kids toys.
Trash. It is the giving season, after all.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just saying it is the giving season, but in any case, next matchup we've got two teams.
Wait.
No, yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was gonna get back to it. I just never said what.
Oh,
what,
I'm sorry.
My pick for the game.
That's my fault. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I got off track, but anyway, I am picking the Garoppolo to win outright. I know this is gonna be his first real test, but I have belief. I have belief that the Jaguars aren't ready for Garoppolo. I think that he's gonna win it, and I feel like this 49. If he wins it right here, that'll send a shock through the world for the 49ers for next season, because that would mean the 49ers won 4 in a row against one playoff team that's very, very good at the moment. Got a good defense. And that might mean that the 49ers are going to be better than people are going to think next year. The 49ers might be ready to compete again next year if they can win this game. So I'm going to pick the 49ers to win outright. Now we can move along.
The Garoppolo?
Garoppolo. Hell yeah.
If they run the table the last 2 weeks, they may officially make that a new species, I believe. In any case, on to the next game. 2 teams heading in opposite directions. The Seahawks falling apart, traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys, whose slim playoff hopes are alive thanks to a 4-game winning streak? 3-game winning streak?
3-game at the moment.
Well, Dallas is 4.5-point favorites. I think this is it for Seattle. I think they are done, and the Cowboys are getting Zeke back. And Zeke is going to be running like a madman. He's going to be quite angry, and he's going to be running over the tatters and the remains of what was once the Legion of Boom. I believe the Cowboys win this game big, so I'll take the Cowboys to cover the 4.5-point spread, Austin. What do you got?
I'm going to pick the Seahawks plus 4.5. Something in me just told me the Seahawks are going to keep this close somehow because they're playing for the last breath. Honestly, this is a win or go home situation really for the Seattle Seahawks. If they lose, they have like no chance of making the playoffs. Actually, they might actually be eliminated. I'd have to go and check. I think it's very slim even if they win. So we'll see. I think like I said, I'm going to pick the Seahawks plus the 4.5 spread, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys cover, to be honest with you.
Alrighty. Last 4 o'clock game. Giants at Cardinals. The Cardinals are getting 3 points at home. This is a snoozer. Drew Stanton's going to be back at quarterback for the Cardinals. I guess I'll take the Cardinals here because they're home. He has a chance, Bruce Arians, Cardinals coach, to tie, I believe, Ken Wisenhunt for the all-time winningest coach in Cardinals history. 2 former Steelers offensive coordinators, by the way.
That's amazing. That's just great that the Cardinals take Steelers leftovers. But I have the Cardinals covering this game. Giants are bad, and they should feel bad. And Drew Stanton, I guess, is an improvement over Blaine Gabbert, I would say. And they've been doing okay with Blaine Gabbert. So Cardinals cover.
There's no winner in this game. Don't watch that game, please. Don't do it. Like, it's the holiday season. Don't expose yourself or your family to that. We'll skip ahead to the Monday night game, the late game. There is no Sunday night game this week because it's Christmas Eve. The Monday night game is the Raiders at the Eagles. The Eagles are getting 9 points at home. Now, I'm making this pick, Austin, with the mindset of the Raiders are going to be eliminated from playoff contention before kickoff, because that is possible based on the way certain games could go on Sunday. I think that's going to happen. That meaning the Raiders have nothing to play for, and the Eagles will have a lot to play for, still having the potential for the first-round bye and a home field advantage. Plus, a few years ago, Nick Foles threw 7 touchdowns against the Raiders. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think this is shaping up to be a big Eagles win, so I'll take them to cover here.
I'm going to pick the Raiders plus 9 only because I don't trust Nick Foles 2 weeks in a row. I think he did decently last week. Not a lot of yards, but touchdowns, and that's all that's important. So, but I think that the Raiders are going to keep it close regardless of if they have something to play for or not. So Raiders plus 9 for me.
Alrighty. Also, it's time to get back to Steelers-Texans on Christmas Day. Let's get into our bold predictions for this game.
Sure. My first one is that Vince Williams sacked T.J. Yates 3 times and joins Cameron Hayward in having 10 sacks or more. Second is that Juju Smith-Schuster puts up AB-like numbers in AB's absence, getting 9 catches or 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. And finally, Mike Hilton has a forced fumble and a pick six. I think he's been in my bold prediction 7 times this year, and nothing's come true. So I'm waiting to hit home for one of them. So what are your bold predictions for this week?
Assuming Vance McDonald plays, I predict he goes off in this game. I think he catches 7 passes and goes over 100 yards and scores 2 touchdowns this week. I think Le'Veon Bell continues his hot streak and goes over 125 on the ground and tacks on another 50 through the air and sets a new personal record with his 9th rushing touchdown of the season. And I think Bud Dupree continues his hot streak as well. I think he sacks TJ Yates twice in this game, making it 4 in the last 4 games. And he gets his first career interception, because why not? So those are my bold predictions. So Austin, what are your final thoughts on the game? And then once you've given me those, give me your final score prediction. The Steelers are 9-point favorites on the road on Christmas Day.
Really, I just think the Steelers are going to overpower the Texans. I don't think it's going to be close. I have the Steelers winning 28-6 and the Steelers covering here. What about you?
Look, we basically keyed in on one guy on each unit. On offense, the Steelers have to watch Jadeveon Clowney. On defense, they have to watch DeAndre Hopkins. I think they can manage to do that. The Steelers have a habit of playing down to their competition on the road when they're huge favorites, which this is the case, but the Texans have practically nothing to play for. The Steelers have everything to play for, and I think they're going to be pissed off after the way the last game ended. I think the Steelers come out with a vengeance on offense and defense and have one of their more complete wins of the season, defeating the Texans 31-17. So I have the Steelers covering. Austin, it's the most wonderful time of the year, and even though the Steelers did not come through victorious last week, they have a chance to, at the very least, tie Mike Tomlin's best ever record with the Steelers with another 12-win season. It's a great time to be a Steelers fan for sure.
It really is, especially today. Today is a historical day in Steelers history. If you're listening to this on December 23rd, today marks the 45th year anniversary since the Immaculate Reception happened. So, it's a pretty historic day today.
It's always a great day in Steelers history. The Immaculate Reception, one of the more famous plays in NFL history. We could probably do a podcast just on that. I mean, there's a football life just on the Immaculate Reception. So there's certainly a lot to talk about with that. Definitely pole vaulted the Steelers into their dynasty of the 70s. But, that is one thing. And the Steelers are still searching for their 7th Super Bowl now for the last few years. It definitely is a great time to be a Steelers fan. It's a great time to be alive. And we're certainly thankful for everyone listening today. And Austin, I'm thankful to have you here with me, as always, talking Steelers football. And, really quickly before we wrap up, as always, feel free to check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find that information on our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. And if you have any questions about the show, please don't hesitate to ask us on any of those platforms or email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Austin, thank you so much for joining me again today and doing this double-part episode, or this 2-part episode, I guess, or 2 episodes in a row, I guess it really is. It's been a long night, but, it's always fun talking Steelers football, and, I always appreciate it.
Oh, man, I appreciate it, too. Thank you for having me.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. You all have a good night.
Have a good night.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.